Hey, me from the future here. I just finished filming 2 videos and I was planning on uploading my reading project for 2022 video first before this one, but for reasons I am not going to get into at this moment, I feel like editing this one first. So you are going to see this one first and then you are going to see my reading projects and plans video. Yes, back to the video. Hello everyone and welcome back to Mariana Math Books. My name is Mariana and today I am going to tell you my top 10 favorite first lines from all of the books that I read during 2021. I love a good first line. Actually, more than a good first line, I love a great last line. I love a great last line, and I know exactly which is my favorite last line from all of the books that I read in 2021. However, I don't want to make a video of favorite last lines because I want you to read the books that I have been recommending, and I don't want to spoil the exact last line of the book. So instead of that, I am going to give you the best great first lines of the books that I read during 2021, which, even though I like last lines better, I also really love great first lines. I just finished filming my video where I told you all about my reading plans, and I was planning on filming my general favorite books video next. However, that one requires so much energy, guys, so much mental energy to think and describe the book and tell you why I love it and everything. And after I filmed that video, I am like out of it, and I cannot possibly film the favorites video, which I will film. I already have it planned. I already know what books I am going to talk about and what categories I am going to put them in, but at the moment I don't have the mental capacity to do so. So instead I am going to do a super easy video in which I tell you my favorite first lines. Also, disclaimer, not all of these books made it into my favorite books of the year. That's important. However, these are my favorite first lines in the books. Some of these books you will see in my favorites video, but some you won't. Without further ado, I am going to start with the first one, which is from Kalpa, Imperial, the Greatest Empire That Never Was, by Angélica Gorodischer. She is an Argentinian writer, and I read this book for the Invisible Cities project. I actually read this book in Spanish, but I looked for the English translation and I downloaded the sample so I could read you the first line, because we are starting with a bang, guys. You will see this is an excellent first line, and actually this book is translated into English by Ursula K. Le Guin. So if you are a Le Guin fan, you might want to check out Kalpa Imperial by Angélica Gorodischer, very first line of the book. The storyteller said, "Now that the good winds are blowing, now that we're done with days of anxiety and nights of terror, now that there are no more denunciations, persecutions, secret executions, and whim and madness have departed from the heart of the empire, and we and our children aren't playthings of blind power. Now that a just man sits on the golden throne, and people look peacefully out their doors to see if the weather is fine, and plan their vacations, and kids go to school, and actors put their hearts into their lines, and girls fall in love, and old men die in their beds, and poets sing, and jewelers weigh gold behind their little windows, and gardeners rake the parks, and young people argue, and innkeepers water the wine, and teachers teach what they know, and we storytellers tell old stories, and archivists archive, and fishermen fish, and all of us can decide, according to our talents and lack of talents, what to do with our lives. Now anybody can enter the Emperor's palace, out of need or curiosity. Anyone can visit that great house, which has for so many years forbidden, prohibited, defended by armed guards, locked, and as dark as the souls of the warrior emperors of the dynasty of the Elidrovides. That whole thing is the first line of the book. I am going to spoil something from my favorites video. This book didn't make it into my favorite books of the year, but in that video I'm going to talk about authors that I want to explore more from, and Angélica Gorodischer is one of those authors. I absolutely fell in love with her writing. If this first line doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. Second one, All Systems Read by Martha Wells, which is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries. The first line says, I could have become a mass murderer after I hacked my governor module, but then I realized I could access the combined feed of entertainment channels carried on the company satellites. A more average sized first line, but also a great line. Then from Fathoms by Rebecca Giggs, which is actually a non-fiction book. It says, a few years ago, I helped push a beached humpback whale back out into the sea, only to witness it return and expire under its own weight on the shoreline. Next one is also a non-fiction book, and this one is from the Romanov sisters by Helen Rappaport, and this one is the first. This one I'm a bit cheating because it is the first line from the first chapter, but there is also a prologue, so this is the first line from the first chapter, and it says, there once were 4 sisters, Victoria, Ella, Irene, and Alex, who lived in an obscure grand duchy in southwestern Germany, a place of winding cobbled streets and dark forests made legendary in the fairy tales of the brothers Grimm. And I love the way that sentence is written. I love the prose of Helen Rappaport, but also I love the surprise element because the book is about the Romanov sisters, so when the book begins, there once were 4 sisters, you expect them to be Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia, and instead it's Victoria, Ella, Irene, and Alex, which were the 4 sisters, the Romanov sisters' mom and their sisters. So I love that surprise factor that this quote has. Then, Stubborn Archivist by Yara Rodrigues Fowler, and this one I put in the list mainly because this is such an experimental type book. It's one of those books that plays with language and with grammar and with proper book writing rules. And I love that, and you can see it since the very first line, so that is why I chose this one. Hey, I recognize you. Yes, what's your name? He repeated the syllables. And I want to have a special mention not only for the first line of this book, but also for the dedication. You know how all of the books have a dedication in the beginning, and in this book the dedication only says, for myself. And I love that. I had never read that in a book. I have never read a book where the author dedicates the book to themselves, and I loved it. Then, The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, and the first line goes, it seems increasingly likely that I really will undertake the expedition that has been preoccupying my imagination now for some days. And what I love about this line is you can hear Stevens, the main character whose head we are in. you can hear him. This sentence is so Stevens. And I don't know if you have seen the movie, but Steven is played by Anthony Hopkins, and you can hear Anthony Hopkins saying this line. It seems increasingly likely that I really will undertake the expedition that has been preoccupying my imagination now for some days. Can't you just hear Anthony Hopkins in your head? Then, and as I said, I cannot rank these because they are so different and I like them for different reasons. But I guess if you had to force me to choose one, I think this would be my favorite first line after the Kalpa Imperial one. And it is from Can You Forgive Her by Anthony Trollope, who, by the way, is also one of the authors that I would like to read more from in this year. You have to keep in mind the title of the book is Can You Forgive Her? That is the title of the book. And the book begins this way. Whether or no she, whom you are to forgive, if you can, did or did not belong to the upper 10,000 of this our English world, I am not prepared to say with any strength of affirmation. I think I actually laughed out loud after I read the first line of the book. I read it and I knew I was going to love Anthony Trollope's writing. Then going back for another non-fiction is from The Ship of Dreams, The Sinking of the Titanic and the End of the Edwardian Era by Gareth Russell. And the first line goes like this. Flowing in from north and west, weaving past Roman and Celtic monuments of obscure purpose, two streams joined with a river Leven to ring the magnificently wooded gardens of Leslie House, the 37-bedroom county seat of Norman Leslie, 19th century Earl of Rhodes. And again, I think this is such an unexpected first line for a book where you expect to hear about the Titanic. And then, last two favorite first lines. The next one is a very short one, and it is from a fiction book this time, and it's from The Queen of Jasmine Country by Sharanya Manivannan, which is one of the books that I read for the Reading Women Challenge. And the first line goes like this. It was not always there, and one day it was. That's the first line. And finally, a romance book. And I love that there is a romance in here because as much as I love romance, and you know I do, and you know I talk about it all the time, I am willing to admit that it doesn't necessarily have the best writing, the best prose. I'm going to leave it at that because that's such a snobby thing of me to say, but I'm going to leave it at that. However, I mentioned in one of my tag videos that I did for Tagmas, I mentioned a romance novel that surprised me. And that surprised me not because of the tropes or anything, but because of the way it is written and the language and the very genuine humor in the book. And it hooked me since the very first line, and that is of course The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. We are going to end this top 10 first lines with a very funny, humorous, light-hearted first line, but not great nonetheless, I think. And it is, in Olive's defense, the man didn't seem to mind the kiss too much. It's so funny, I love it, it's so funny. And okay, I'm going, this is not planned, this was a last thought of myself for this video. As you know, I told you that I love last lines and that my favorite thing is a great last line more than a great first line. I also told you that I knew which was my favorite last line from the books I read last year. I also told you I wasn't going to share it because I didn't want to spoil it. However, here's the thing. My favorite last line comes from Delirium by Laura Restrepo, and if you read the last line, you still won't have any idea what is going on, because you have no idea what is going on in the book until the very last paragraph. So even if you read it, it wouldn't affect your reading experience whatsoever. On top of that, I read the book in Spanish, in the original language. So I am going to share with you the last line of Laura Restrepo's Delirium, but I am going to share with you in Spanish. If there are Spanish speaking people out there watching the video, you will understand the sentence, but you won't be spoiled for the book, no worries. And if you are English speaking, then you won't understand the sentence and you could log off from the video if you wanted, because I'm going to read it in Spanish. So this is the last line of Laura Restrepo's Delirium, or Delirio in Spanish, and it goes like this. Señorita Londoño, ¿le parece suficientemente roja esta corbata? Best last line of 2021. Like, yeah. Okay, so those were all the books, or all the best, my favorite first lines from the books I read in 2021. I really loved doing this. I love when booktubers share first lines from the books they read. I love when they do a haul video and they share the first line from all the books that they haul. So since I started planning my end of the year or beginning of the year content, my favorites, I knew that I wanted to do a video for my favorite first lines. Please tell me if you have read any of the books, or tell me if you have a book that you love the first line. You don't have to tell me the line if you don't know it, but you can tell me your favorite first line. Oh, as a fun fact, I can tell you, for instance, my favorite last line of a book ever, from all of the books that I have ever read in my life, my favorite last line comes from 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel García Márquez. It has the best last line I have ever read in my entire life. But yeah, that was just a fun fact. So that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you on the next video. Who knows where the wind will take me? Who knows what I will be feeling up for? Who knows what I will be in the mood for filming? But it will be bookish. You know that. So that would be it for today. I will see you on another bookish video. In the meantime, I wish you happy reading.